The man took his wife back to his hometown. Suddenly, the weather on the mountain changed abruptly. His wife accidentally slipped from the mountaintop. Although the man stretched out his hand to catch her at once, it was very difficult for him to pull her back up by himself. In the end, he could only watch helplessly as his wife fell off the cliff. 20 years later, the man had become the richest person in the world. His wife's accidental fall into the ravine remained the greatest pain in his heart. So he spent a fortune to invite a doctor to build a robot that looked exactly like his wife. The doctor told the man that the robot's fatal flaw was that it was afraid of water. Once it encountered water, its synthetic skin would dissolve immediately. Seeing his wife's face again after 20 years, the man instantly lost control of his emotions. He tightly held the robot's hand, mistakenly believing that his wife had truly returned. The doctor said the robot still needed final adjustments, and promised to do so by this afternoon. The man could never have imagined that his wife was actually alive. She was now working as a cleaner in the building below his office. It turned out that 20 years ago, his wife had become lodged on a tree branch after falling, and was later rescued by a mountain hermit, who saved her life. Because her head had suffered a severe impact, she couldn't remember how she had arrived there or who she was. When the woman lost her memory, the hermit pretended to be her husband. The woman had no suspicions whatsoever, and thus became the hermit's unpaid labor. Unable to endure the hermit's gambling addiction and depraved behavior, 20 years later, the woman escaped the mountain and came to work as a cleaner at the tycoon's company. Suddenly, the hermit called to scold her for running away, demanding that she return $500,000, otherwise, he'll hand her over to her creditors as a maid. The woman knew very well that if she couldn't come up with $500,000, the hermit will never let her go. But she was just a cleaner, earning less than $4,000 a month despite her hard work. She couldn't think of any way to make $500,000 in the short term. At the height of her despair, she unexpectedly discovered a fire on the upper floors of the headquarters. Being kind-hearted, she rushed up to save someone right away. It turned out that the fire had broken out in the area where the doctor's robot was being developed. The doctor's 2 decades of painstaking research on the robot went up in flames. He was worried, not knowing how to explain it to the man. The woman entered the room, urging the doctor to leave the dangerous area immediately. As she spoke, she tried to drag the doctor down the stairs by force. When their eyes met, the doctor could hardly believe his eyes. He realized that the woman looked exactly like the robot. In order to meet the man's expectations on time, the doctor offered the woman $1 million to pretend to be his robot. Since the woman urgently needed $500,000 to buy her freedom, she readily agreed to the doctor's proposal. Soon, she followed the doctor up to the man's office. The couple finally reunited after 20 years of hardship. Seeing that the robot looked completely like his wife, the man was deeply moved. In fact, he had a second reason for wanting to develop this robot. His son had promised him he would only go abroad to study if his father found his mother. Now that he had a robot identical to his wife, he planned to bring it to his son's graduation ceremony, hoping to surprise his son. Unexpectedly, the man's female assistant, who had been pursuing him, discovered the truth. Learning that the man cared more for a cleaner than for her, she was furious, but upon noticing the cleaner heading toward the robot lab, she secretly followed them. On the other side, the woman pleads with the doctor to fix the robot as soon as possible. Then she won't have to keep pretending to be a robot. She then excused herself, eager to use the restroom. Just then, the female assistant happened to arrive at the doorway. She saw a robot that looked exactly like that woman. The assistant assumed that the doctor and the cleaner were colluding to deceive the man. She thought that if she exposed this secret at tomorrow's graduation ceremony, the man would surely thank her, and their relationship would undoubtedly deepen. Little did she know that her nightmare was just beginning. Soon, it was time for the graduation ceremony. The assistant told the man that his wife was actually a robot. Hearing this, the man became anxious and uneasy. He worried that if his son learned his mother was a robot, he would abandon his plans to study abroad. The woman also feared that the revelation of her role would affect the doctor's promise to pay her $1 million. When the son held her hand, he felt it was warm. He therefore concluded that the assistant was fabricating lies to slander the woman. The assistant recalled that the doctor had said the robot was most afraid of water. She decided to test the woman with water to see if she was really a robot.